Iowa's News Now Sports has your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks, sponsored by University of Iowa Healthcare.
Welcome to Eye on the Hawks, on the road to Albany, on the road to the Elite Eight, on the road to the Final Four in Cleveland. Potentially, we'll find out in a couple days. Welcome to the podcast tonight as we recap tonight's Sweet 16 win by Iowa over Colorado. Mike Howell broadcasting back from Eye on the Hawks HQ in Cedar Rapids, and I'm Owen Sebring, live in my hotel room in Albany, New York, as we break down tonight's action. I was watching here live on the sideline. Mike, you were watching back in the station, I assume.
Yep.
Just seemed like, was there ever any point in this game where you were not comfortable with how Iowa looked?
Not really. I was nervous heading in because I think a lot of people were just looking forward to the rematch that we didn't know we were going to get, but now we know we're going to get. LSU, playing LSU was, at least that's what I think fans were thinking about. I don't think the players were thinking about that at all, but after that, the first quarter, I'm like, I think this is the Hawkeyes' night. There was a sense of me in the third quarter, when you're thinking like Ohio State, Nebraska, those games early on where they had 12-point leads and lost them. I was like, this is where in the past this season they've kind of faltered. No pun intended, Sydney faltered, but they kind of let up big leads, but they didn't tonight. So that's encouraging.
Yep. Yeah, there was one point where I think the lead in the second half, maybe in the third quarter, got down to like 13 points or something, but it seemed like that was about as close as it ever got. Colorado just never was able to find any sort of momentum tonight. It seems like they were given some wide open three-point shots, and they didn't make any of them. Colorado tonight, 8 for 29, 27% from three-point range. They just never quite found anything that helped them click. And I don't know. I had a gut feeling coming in that this was going to be a very comfortable win for Iowa. Yeah, that's exactly what we got out of them. That was just such a complete performance. I was asking the players after the game, based on the Sweet 16, based on the performance against a quality team out of the Pac-12 like Colorado, was this the best you feel like you've looked as a team all season? And they kind of hemmed and hawed and were like, maybe, I'm not sure. But I really do feel like that was, Ohio State game in the season finale, that was a hell of an impressive win too. But this was just a really impressive showing, especially considering how much some of the other one seeds have struggled here in the Sweet 16. This is not an easy round, and Iowa really made it look easy against Colorado.
They really did. And some of the, surprising things I saw, at least when I'm looking over the box score, I remember I was just pre-writing a story for a website, and I think heading midway through the third quarter, heading into the fourth, Colorado had a 2-point rebounding advantage, but they ended it with Iowa out-rebounding them 43-34 with a 9-point lead. That's huge against a team. Colorado has more size than Iowa, and I don't know how she does it, but Kate Martin always seems to have like 8, 9, 10 rebounds. Hannah Stuelke had a double-double along with Caitlin's double-double. It's just the 15 assists that she had was amazing. Colorado never was a good three-point shooting team, and I guess the one thing you say, and I think this was part of Iowa's game plan, so I don't think we should be too worried, is Colorado had a lot of open threes. I think their plan was let them shoot. They're not a good shooting team, at least not compared to some other teams. They ended up shooting 27% from the three-point, Colorado did. LSU is going to hit open shots. So if you can't guard them, that could be a potential warning or like a potential negative going into next game. And you still have to collapse and play Angel Reese, because I don't know if you got to watch that game. I think you were sitting sideline or somewhere in the arena.
Yeah.
Angel Reese held her own against Lauren Betts tonight, and very impressive from that, because she was giving up a few inches on that.
Yeah, boy, I'd never seen Lauren Betts in person, but she is huge. I mean,
Mhm.
she just towered over Angel Reese. She looked like she had 4 or 5 inches on her. And
Was she
boy,
6'7", I think the broadcast said?
is that what it is? Boy, she
Yeah.
looked even taller than that, man. She's just enormous. I was like, how did Stanford not win a natty last year, having Lauren Betts and Cameron Brink on the post of that team? Like, how did they not make it farther? But yeah, and I think that as you touched on the rebounding performance tonight, 43-34 overall. Hannah Stuelke really helping out on the rebounding. That's what's going to be the biggest factor coming in, because between Angel Reese and Anissa Morrow, I mean, gosh, that LSU team is so good in the post. And man, that is going to be a really tough matchup for them. I wanted to give one little thing for our fans. If you're watching, we can see the messages. If you decide to write in with any sort of question or anything, we can see those on our end. So go ahead. If you have any questions from the audience, feel free to sound off if you have anything that you want to say or anything. Before we look too much ahead, a couple other things I want to touch on. First, Caitlin's 3-point shooting.
Could you check your cord, Owen, or your headset? I think I'm not sure, but your mic's a little messed up right now.
Okay, I think my microphone is just going.
Yeah,
is it good?
Sounds good now. Yep.
Okay, I was gonna say it's going off of the webcam, I think. But Caitlin's 3-point shooting tonight, again, not great. She was 3 for 11 overall. She struggled a little bit on 3-point shooting in the postseason, but boy, her passing tonight, obviously great. 15 assists is close to her career high. I think 16 is her career high. And what amazed us on the sideline was her 2-point, like just driving the lane. We just never see that out of her. I mean, we see it, but not quite at that type of volume. I think that she made, she had 13. So she had 10 2-point shots made tonight, which is a season high, the most since she was a sophomore at Iowa. And so just her ability to drive the lane was one of the biggest differences tonight for Iowa.
I think, obviously it changes game by game, but I would like to see her do more of that. And, she's a deadly 3-point shooter. We know that, but she hasn't really been that in the last month. She's made some, but like you said, like 3 for 11, and, not the greatest, not from her, at least. I think she said she missed in the post-game presser at the podium. She said she missed 1 2-point shot, and a lot of layups, a lot of driving, and then when that happens, anywhere she is, the defense collapses on her anyway. That's what sets up her teammates, with all those assists. And I think they mentioned on the broadcast that, I don't remember the exact numbers, but she was pretty close to having more points in the paint, at least in the first half, than Colorado, which is impressive.
Yeah. Wow, that is impressive. And it's the kind of overall performance that this team is going to need in the next round. I mean, getting the stat that I like to point out was the fact that against West Virginia, only 4 players for Iowa scored any points at all. And tonight, 5 Hawkeyes finish in double figures. I mean, that's kind of well-rounded performance that if they play like this against LSU, then they've got a good fighting chance against the Tigers. But anything else you want to touch on from tonight's game? I know we've got a few sound bites to run. Anything that you want to run right away?
They mentioned it a few times. I think Gabby mentioned it when you talked to her, and then at the podium, and then Iowa basketball sent out a clip of Hannah being able to. Here, let me try and share my screen here. Okay. Not this one. Hannah got a rebound. Hannah got put the nameplate on the bracket where they do every game. But what Bluter said beforehand, before I went to this clip, is that Hannah prevented the big that she was guarding. I think it was Ironette, right?
Yep, Vonleh. Yeah.
She had prevented her from getting any. Sorry, something's playing right now. I'm sorry. Okay, that music is out of there now. We're doing a new system, so we're trying to bear with us here. She prevented them from getting any offensive rebounds. And last season against Iowa or Colorado when they played, I think they had 22 offensive boards, so that was like a point of emphasis.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive that there were 3 players for Colorado who had 5 rebounds, and that would have been their leader with 5 total. There were 3 Hawkeyes who had more than 5 rebounds, and then Sid had 5. So, I mean, just a really impressive rebounding performance. And overall, yeah, like we said, that's what they're going to need in the next round, because that's what they're really going to be coming up against with an LSU team that has a pretty big size advantage. Sita Falter tonight was outstanding, as she has been this entire postseason. I said it in my story that airs tonight at 9 and 10, but boy, I mean, take Caitlin Clark out of the equation. Obviously, she's the X factor on this team, but outside of her, I mean, there's been nobody that's been more important to this team's postseason success than Sydney Falter. I mean, she has been the absolute key for this team with so many of these games where she's played well when some of the other players are not playing well. I mean, the West Virginia game, case in point, the only player who had a field goal in the fourth quarter. So many of those Big Ten tournament games, Sydney's been the one who's been able to gather herself and score some points or get a crucial rebound when this team needs it the most.
She has been super impressive, and would this Iowa team be here if she weren't in the starting lineup? I don't know. She's an integral part, and she's gained a lot of confidence, I think, over the last month or so, being in the starting lineup and having more of a role and getting more minutes. Maybe it's just more minutes and she plays better, It's hard to make a difference every night if you're playing 6-7 minutes, but now she's playing like 30, so we see more of what she's able to do. It does give me confidence as a fan to say, hey, maybe we can go toe-to-toe with LSU. I still have some reservations, just watching Floje Johnson and, Angel Reese and all those players there. Haley Van Lith, they're the point guard there. It's going to be difficult in the next round, but I think with a Falter coming into her own, if Gabby's playing lockdown defense and hitting a couple threes, and then Kate Martin and, Hannah, I think the starting five is pretty solid for Iowa. Now they can go toe-to-toe to LSU starting five.
Yeah, it's just a very different type of lineup that LSU has compared to Iowa. Just the offense just runs a lot differently because they count so much on being able to score points in the paint. So it's just a totally different system. And as much as we, I really always try to avoid making the officials any sort of the crux of the story, especially in last year's championship game. The officiating is going to be key for what happens on Monday night, because if they're calling it close, calling a lot of fouls, then that maybe works in Iowa's advantage, because that would mean that they're maybe getting Angel and Anissa in foul trouble. But if they're letting a lot of physicality go, then that could work against Iowa.
Yeah, Angel fouled out today at the end of the game, and a lot of that had to do with she was guarding Lauren Betts all game. But that will be huge. I thought the refs in the LSU game were calling every little ticky-tack foul, and I thought half of them weren't fouls. So we'll see who they have on Monday. But before we get to that LSU game, we do have a soundbite. This is just the players they were talking about. Well, I don't think this is going out on a limb, but this was the best performance of the tournament so far. Maybe the best performance since that Michigan game in the tournament. Semifinals? They played them in the semifinals, right? I think so. So here are the players just talking about their complete ball game.
This was the first time in about 3 games we were able to put together what felt like a complete basketball game on both ends of the floor, whether it was in transition or on defense or just really executing our offense. So I think being able to build off of that and take that momentum into our next game.
I think it's really hard to guard us whenever everybody's knocking down shots, and that's what we want. I thought that was just really pretty basketball tonight. Whenever everybody's scoring, getting the ball, sharing the love, I think, that's when we're at our best, and it's really hard to guard and hard to beat us at that point.
Yeah, it's super exciting going into this game on Monday, and I really think that it was a complete game, both offensively and defensively, and 5 people scoring in double figures is huge.
Yeah, I was going to say I kind of been looking back through to see, like, gosh, has Sydney been in double figures every game since she's been a starter? And that hasn't quite been the case in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament in that Michigan game. I beg your pardon. It was the first round of the NCAA tournament against Holy Cross. Sid had 9 points and 7 rebounds, but other than that, she's had double digits every game she's been a starter this season. 18 against Penn State, 12 against Michigan, 11 against Nebraska, 13 against West Virginia, now 15 tonight against Colorado, which is it would be a season high other than that Penn State game in the first round of the Big Ten tournament.
And yeah, like someone in the chat mentions, no shade on Molly Davis. I'm actually wearing the headband shirt today at the station today. How did she look today? I mean, she's still on crutches, or I guess she wasn't in crutches in the first 2 rounds.
No, she's still walking around, but I felt like when I saw her, I'm trying to think what day I kind of got a glimpse of her walking up the stairs or something. I feel like that was maybe 2 days ago. She still it still seems like just walking around. She still kind of looks like she might have a little bit of a limp, a little bit of a hitch in her giddy up, as we say. And so I just really have a hard time seeing her go in the Elite Eight. I'd be really, really surprised if she even suits up for that game on Monday. Maybe if they win and they go to the Final Four, Molly might be ready to go by then. But she still looks like she's not quite ready. And I know that's been, Lisa talks about her being disappointed. And obviously, she's not saying she's disappointed in Molly. There's nothing that Molly can do about it. But Lisa has said a few times that she really thought and hoped that Molly's physical progress would be farther along by now than what it has been, and she just is not quite as far along in her physical recovery as she'd hoped that she would be.
And I don't know if you want to mess up the hot hand of the starting lineup pretty good. I mean, I know the last 2 games were pretty iffy, but you got to like what you've seen in the past, 2 weeks or so, or I guess 3 weeks.
Yeah, good. I mean, it is an interesting point to be, living in an alternate universe where you think, boy, if Molly stays healthy, is this team where it's at? Do they win the Big Ten championship? Do they win that game against West Virginia? I mean, Molly obviously had a lot of games this year where she provides some really crucial points, but
she's also a great ball handler. So against that,
yeah.
She'd probably outside of Caitlin, I think people have said she's the second best, which I agree with. So she could have really helped bringing the ball up against that press. So I think the West Virginia game would have been an easier go for this team should she have been, ready to go. But if you're taking her at 50% with that leg, I don't know. It sucks for her to not be able to play because it's going to be her last year.
Yeah.
But the starting 5, I don't think you can touch.
Yeah, I don't think that it's even going to be a discussion for the Elite Eight game. But if they make the Final Four, I think it'll be worth at least asking Lisa again, is there a chance that Molly suits up or at least gets on the court? I think what surprised me is that she doesn't even suit up for the games. I mean, she's just still in sweats going in, so they're not even pretending that she's going to be going out there for the game.
Speaking of the Final Four, I don't know if you saw this. Iowa and tight turnarounds has been kind of a theme this month. But if Iowa, it's kind of a tight turnaround comparatively to the men's game. You play on Monday night, and then you have to play on Friday instead of because they play the first and second round in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, they play a day later than the men start. But for whatever reason, they start a day before the men instead of going, because the men play, Final Fours on Saturday, Natties on Monday. They go Friday, Sunday. I don't know why they don't go Sunday, Tuesday.
That's a good point, and I hadn't quite thought about that. But, boy, that's something that us media folks are talking about when it comes to the Final Four, especially if Iowa makes it, because – I mean, this is just for me. I mean, I haven't even brought this up to, you guys in the higher ups, that it's I fly back to Iowa on Tuesday night. The Naismith Award ceremony is on Wednesday. So I'm I would not even have time to drive back to Cedar Rapids and then drive back to Cleveland to get there in time for the Naismith presentation on Wednesday. But anyway, that's a discussion for a later day if Iowa is able to pull off. But I'm just looking right now. This is interesting. I mean, it's weird. Iowa actually has had the most dominant performance in the Sweet 16 so far. I mean, USC got tested by Baylor, ended up winning by 4. LSU, UCLA. I mean, UCLA was winning that game in the fourth quarter for some points. That was a close game. And right now, UConn is up on Duke 23-13 at halftime. Duke scored 6 points in the first quarter, 7 points in the second quarter. Very low scoring game out there in the Sweet 16.
Some of the surprising results, I mean, it's not surprising the result, South Carolina, Indiana, but when I saw that first half score, because yesterday, I think I was here when that game was going on at the station just doing my normal news stuff, but I was like, oh, yeah, they're getting blown out. But Indiana came back, and they only lost by 4 in that game, so they really tested South Carolina. It makes you think, are they vulnerable? Texas kind of blew out Gonzaga. Oregon State beat Notre Dame, which is crazy. We're talking about how good that Pac-12 is. They had 4 teams still alive. Stanford lost right after that, so and then Colorado lost. So I think they have 3 teams alive, and USC won earlier today. So
yeah, they had 5 teams in the Sweet 16 between all of them: Oregon State, UCLA, USC, Colorado, and Stanford. So right now they've still got Oregon State and USC still alive, still playing. So they were best conference in America, I'd say, this year, almost without question. So those the elite games on the other half of the bracket are going to go tomorrow. Oregon State playing South Carolina and NC State playing Texas. Boy, that's one I don't even know what to make of that game. I didn't expect NC State to make it this far. But South Carolina, if nothing else,
You're talking men's basketball or women's?
South Carolina, certainly Indiana helped give a formula for how to beat this team for these teams down the road. Oh, here you go. Mike's got the bracket pulled up on your screen. So those are the ones left, and Iowa and LSU tipping off on Monday night, 6 o'clock.
You know what worries me? Then I'm looking at this irrational worry, and this is totally like there's nothing about this, but to me, if you look at those first games, South Carolina and Texas are going to win, right? That's 2 1 seeds. I know the women's bracket's different than the men's, whereas, there's usually not 4 straight chalk to the Final Four. But, you may have UConn too here if they win, which they are right now. Can there be 3, 4, 1 seeds? Just the law of averages, makes me a little nervous. But again, that has nothing to do with the actual game, just how my mind works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, and I would have to go back and look. I did this for the men's tournament today, and I'd be curious to look at a breakdown of the women's tournament, just looking at the Final Four by seeds over the last number of years. I feel like, yeah, it is usually a lot more chalk, but usually there's, I'd say, at least 2 to 3 1 seeds in there almost every year. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that Texas is a team that is vulnerable. South Carolina, I'd have a really hard time seeing them lose that game. But I would say that,
Classic Beavers versus the Cox. Moving on.
But that'd be there's some sponsor out there who would probably appreciate that one. I people tonight were talking about how this was billed as the best region in this year's tournament, the one that Iowa and LSU are playing in, and it's kind of played out almost exactly like what people thought it might with Iowa and LSU now, and only one gets to come out of it and be the representative for the Final Four this year.
Yeah, we had some discussion, and I know I don't exactly remember what we talked about on this podcast, but I remember talking to some people that are like, LSU's got to beat UCLA to get here, and there was a thought that, Iowa would hold up their end of the bargain, but LSU might not. And as we saw today, I know I'd said last week that I preferred LSU just because I think you got to beat the team to be the team, and they lost to them last year. But I was rooting for UCLA today. There's something about Kim Mulkey that I just don't like. Haven't gotten to read that Washington Post article that came out a few hours ago before the tip-off. I'll have to go home and read that later. But she's just so unlikable. And Roger Johnson was talking crap to UCLA fans in the stands today, and
really,
Angel Reese was chirping at the UCLA bench, and yeah, it was just that
will be an interesting storyline because compared to what Iowa games have been like in this postseason, that LSU UCLA game felt almost dead silent in the arena, just because it was already, even during that game, it was just filled with Hawkeye fans. And there were just like little pockets of LSU and UCLA fans kind of cheering their teams on. I'm like, yeah, this game almost just feels like a preamble, just a warm up to the main show that the people are here for. So that's all to say that, like, boy, when it's Iowa and LSU on Monday, it will not quite feel totally like a home court game like it did at Carver, but it's going to be, I'd say, probably 75-25 Iowa fans versus LSU fans. And so I don't know. I wonder if that will rattle the cage at all of Angel and Flauge and some of the players who, like you say, were chirping with the fans a little bit. I don't know if that leads to some, maybe a technical or just a little bit more angst on their part, but that could be a storyline at least. Duke Lombardi and our comments be close to last year's championship. Frankly, I think it's going to decimate the ratings of last year's championship. I feel like after last year's title game, people just got warmed up to Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, and those were the people everybody was following this year. Now that people know the storyline so much better and have been following Caitlin's records this year, I think that this is going to just blow the ratings from last year's championship out of the water.
This game on Monday? Yeah, no, I'd be surprised at what today's were, but I assume they're down because it's a Saturday, but, in the afternoon. But yeah, Mondays I think are going to be going to be wild. I think close to that. But if Iowa keeps advancing, will the ratings just expand? Like, say Iowa plays, if they win on Monday, they play Juju Watkins or UConn even. Either one of those is like a ratings dream. Yeah. And then on Monday, South Carolina, or you'd assume it makes it. But that would just be bonkers.
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking. Is it like as much as like other fans are using this as a argument to say like the refs are one-sided for Iowa, it's like you have to know that the NCAA and every ESPN and ABC is like, please Iowa, keep winning, keep winning. They know how good this is for their ratings when they keep winning. I know that the people of Albany, at least the businesses in Albany, had to be rooting for Iowa to win because that's 2 more days of Hawkeye cash filling up the pockets of every restaurant and hotel in town. And so that everybody loves seeing Iowa make a deeper run because it's good for revenue all across the board.
Before we get to our next soundbite, Mitch Fick had reported earlier that the Hawkeye Huddle ran out of vodka for mimosas, I believe.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Or it might have been champagne, actually, now I'm thinking about it.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Mimosas are champagne and orange juice, not vodka. Yeah. That's a screwdriver.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I was going to at least bring up, before we move on to the game itself, I wanted to talk about the article a little bit. I know, Mike, you said you haven't had a chance to read it yet, but a few of the comments in the replies are talking about the Washington Post article. I actually happened to read it before I went to the arena today. I just saw Scott Docterman repost it. So as I was sitting in the parking garage, I read through the whole thing. And yeah, frankly, it's much ado about nothing. I mean, it's interesting. It's a really well done article, and I feel like it was really fascinating. Like the author went and talked to Kim Mulkey's dad, who she's been estranged from for the last few decades, and it's a really interesting read. And so really weaves together some interesting narratives, and you get a little bit of a background on her life a little bit, and I don't know, but there's nothing in there that's like. That I don't think, unless there's some blatant lie in there that the writer made up, I don't think there's anything in there that's going to be worth a lawsuit or worth Kim really. I mean, she'll probably still be upset about it, but yeah.
From the reaction I've seen on Twitter, and again, this reporter never publicized that, he's going to take her down or anything like that. It seems like she was trying to get out in front. I don't know what exactly, but she has had, history in the past of, making gay players feel unwelcome and stuff like that. So was that included in the article, I assume? Just those?
Yes, that did get brought up. But at the same time,
really,
right. At the same time, though, like they did kind of say, though, that like there were other gay players that they talked to who said that they did not ever feel that way under Mulkey. So it's like, it's like different experiences, I guess I should say, for different players in that situation.
And, that goes that also can, bringing it back to Iowa, that around 2020, the report on how Kirk Ferentz, the football team, treated black players. Everyone has a different experience. Not everyone's going to feel the same way. Some people might feel excluded. That could be tied to playing time. It could be tied to a number of things. It doesn't mean that everyone was lying. It doesn't mean everyone was wrong. It just means that they experience some things differently. So
yeah, everybody has a different experience. One thing that really that stuck out to me in that article was that, they talked about Kim Mulkey's playing days when she was in high school and college at Louisiana Tech. They were like, boy, she was such a pistol out there, and she was making, behind the back passes and between the legs and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the way that they talk about Kim in a lot of ways reminds me of Caitlin Clark. I don't know if Kim's ever been asked that, but I'm like, she sounds like a very similar style of player to Caitlin. And even her personality is a little bit like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to make this sound like blasphemy, but there are times where like, Kim really wears her emotions on her sleeve, which is something that Caitlin does as well. Those two are almost more alike than they are different, I would say.
Yeah, I'm excited to read that, and I'll do it either today or tomorrow. But Iowa makes it to their 6th Elite Eighth appearance, 3 under Lisa Bluter, 2nd straight, and I believe they went 2 straight in the 80s, late 80s, 87, 88. Mm-hmm. You got a chance to talk to some players about, going to back-to-back Elite Eights. I'm going to play that soundbite right now.
Sorry, 2 straight Elite Eights now for Iowa. I mean, how special is that to be part of just a historic run like this over 2 seasons?
Yeah, I think this team and this university is really special, and so being able to do that for these coaches and with these girls. There's no other group that I want to be doing this with. It truly is a family here, and I think you guys can see that on the court, and that's kind of how we play. We play with joy. We play together. We celebrate everyone's success, and I think that's truly how we've gotten to be so successful and get to this point in the last 2 years.
I don't know anything different, so which is good.
Yeah.
It must be good luck.
What's it? That has to be it.
Oh, Hannah.
Hannah there.
Always good for a laugh. Yeah. Yeah, that is fun. I hadn't realized. I'd first thought that this would be the first time for them, but no, you pointed out, yeah, 87, 88, they went to back-to-back Elite Eights, which is pretty dang impressive, yeah, for Coach Stringer back then. So now 2 in a row. I mean, I am at the point now, and I know a Hawkeye fan is going to feel differently, but I'm at the point where I'm like, boy, reaching the Elite Eight 2 straight years, like that's such a incredible success for Caitlin and for Lisa and for the Hawkeyes. Like, I think no matter from here on out, no matter what happens, I think you have to be like, at least if nothing else, they've made a special place in history. If they'd lost today or in the second round, that would definitely be, I think, a little bit of a mark against them. But for them to make 2 straight Elite Eights is a really just impressive mark on their resume.
Yeah, I agree with you on the surface. The one thing that's kind of why I was rooting for UCLA. If you lose against Lauren Betts and Kiki Rice and, that wonderful team, you just came up short in the Elite Eight, so what? I think as much as the players, and we'll have a soundbite from them earlier, how this is just going to be another game, they can say that, they can believe that, and they can play it. Once that game starts, the build-up for it's going to be different, and it's going to be a special game. And if you lose again to LSU, they're going to talk trash. They're going to rub it in your face, and it's not going to be good. So it's going to leave a sour taste in the mouths of fans and probably all the players too. So I tend to agree with you once you take a step back, and maybe it's a month later, 2 months later, Elite Eight, that's great. But in the moment, it's going to sting.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I agree. And it's that will be a storyline. I feel like no matter what, it will be the storyline. But boy, if Angel and LSU beats Iowa again, that's a storyline that's going to follow them throughout their entire WNBA careers. I think anytime they play each other, it's like, oh, Angel's a team that Caitlin and the Hawkeyes could never get past. Can she do it in the WNBA? Yeah, that's going to be the storyline that will follow them both for the rest of their careers. I feel like almost no matter what at this point, that those two, as much as they don't guard each other, they don't really have all that much to do with each other.
Yeah,
they still are going to always be associated with one another.
One storyline that just popped into my head is Iowa beat Louisville last year in the Elite Eight, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Seattle.
Yep.
And Haley Van Lith was on there, and now she's with LSU. So it's kind of a third rematch, so to speak, because she probably will be. Well, I don't think she'll probably guard Caitlin straight up. I imagine one of their better defenders will, but she could, a few possessions, whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's another rematch we have to look out for.
Every person involved in Wavegate is going to be on the floor. Caitlin, Haley, and we have to get John Cena in the building for this. Like, there's no other choice. We need to get him here for this one. Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
It's just going to be such a tough battle. I mean, I don't know. Do we want to go ahead and get into predictions for what we're going to see on Monday, or do we have something else we want to touch on for this game, Mike?
Well, how about, do we want to hear the players and Lisa Bluter, or I guess it's just Caitlin and Lisa Bluter talking about the matchup, LSU matchup? We have one more soundbite. All right, let's do that, and then we can get into our early predictions.
I think we're excited. I think, anytime you have a chance to go up against somebody you lost to, it brings a little more energy. But at this point in the tournament, every single team is good, whether you're playing West Virginia, whether you're playing Colorado, whether you're playing LSU. You prep the exact same way. You come in with the same exact mindset. And I think overall it's just going to be a really great game for women's basketball. And they're really solid 1 through 5. We know we're going to have to rebound the basketball.
Yeah, I think everybody's pretty excited for it. I mean, 12 million people tuned in last year to see this game. Might be the same this time. Who knows? I know that these are two really good basketball teams, and it's almost unfortunate they're meeting this early. But everybody that's left now is really good, and LSU is certainly that. Yeah, we got run out of the gym last year, so it was pretty bad. But honestly, we try to keep the blind, just keep looking straight ahead and not listen to the outside noise. And I think my team has done a good job of staying off social media, trying not to get caught up in that. I think when you get caught up in all that, now it takes your energy off the focus that you need at hand, and that is to prepare for a really good LSU.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, and that's it's unfortunate that that's going to be the main storyline or the distraction. It's not unfortunate because it's going to be a great game and good for ratings and everything, but it'd be nice if it was just, straight up Iowa versus LSU, where it's going to be really billed as Angel versus Caitlin. She was even asked that by one reporter tonight. They asked, oh, you see you against Angel again, and Caitlin had a nice soundbite about, oh yeah, she's great for the game, great player, yada yada. And then somebody goes, well, is that a rivalry between you two? And she goes, nope. That was kind of it. So she's not going to try to buy into that too much, but that's going to be the storyline that a lot of people are going to be pitching over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, it should be, a fun game to watch too. Just all the good players they have, and I'm just super excited for it. So getting back to those predictions, Owen, early analysis, what do you think? You saw both teams in action today.
Maybe I'm just being a pessimist here, and maybe I'm not giving Iowa enough credit, but I really feel like LSU is going to win by 15, 20 points. I think that they're just so tough and so talented all across the board that Iowa, I'm not saying Iowa is incapable of playing their best and a perfect game, but they are going to need every last ounce of perfection that they have left in their system if they want a chance to beat LSU, because that feels like a team on a mission in so many ways. I feel like Kim Mulkey, with everything with the article, she's just fired up and feels like, she's got the world against her right now. And I feel like this team is playing with a chip on her shoulder, that they're like, oh, people aren't talking about us as much as they should. We're still the national champs. I feel like this team is playing with such a chip on its shoulder that they are just such an incredibly tough out in the postseason right now.
Yeah, I'm worried about it. I think their size is going to present some challenges, and I do think, though, if I were, like someone said this in the comments, so I don't want to act like I'm stealing it, but I do agree with it. If Iowa plays like they did today, a well-rounded game, I think it'll be close, and they'll have an opportunity to win. But it will be tough to get over the hump, in my opinion. So, if I had to bet, I don't know what the spread is yet. If there is one, I would probably take the Tigers.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be closer than last year's game. I really do.
Yeah. A few things that might work in Iowa's favor is I just look at the box score from tonight's LSU versus UCLA game. They only played 7 total players, and for the most part only went 6 deep. And so that's again to say that if Iowa can get LSU in foul trouble, that's going to be the biggest factor that could impact the lineup. This team is prone to, not the team, but at least a few players are prone to turnovers. Flaw-J Johnson had 5 turnovers. Anissa Morrow had 4 turnovers tonight. If Iowa can lock them down on defense, then they can force a few turnovers, then that could be a little bit of a difference maker. And to their credit, Iowa, boy, they played great defense both of the last 2 games. Tonight was another great defensive effort by that team. And so if they bring that same kind of effort and can get some good quality production in the post, then I could be totally off on my prediction. But that was just tough when I saw LSU came up in the same region of the bracket and you saw that they would have to play each other before the Final Four. I'm like, boy, that could be ugly.
It'd be one heck of a win if they got it. And yeah, I guess the one good thing is that one girl who went off and hit like 8 threes last year, she graduated. I'm blanking on her name right now, but she had the lighter hair, and she had 25 points off the bench. So that's actually I got the box score pulled up. Let me just look it up real quick.
I was going to say.
Jasmine Carson. She went off against Iowa a year ago, coming off the bench. So.
And she just graduated. Yeah.
Yeah, she graduated. She had 22 points on 22 minutes and 5 for 6 from 3. So I gave her a little too much credit, but still, it was a big impact in a 20-point game or so, whatever it was. But different year. I think there is something to say about having some tape on a team that played against you. I know Iowa's team is a little bit different too. So maybe that comes into play a little bit. We're going to need a really good game from Hannah, which she's stepped up the past few games. So, but, I don't see her stopping Angel Reese down low. If you can slow her down, though, limit the threes, I think they have a shot.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, somebody believes that Iowa's a 1.5 point favorite right now. I haven't seen any lines yet, but I'll trust you if that's what you're saying. Can I look ahead at all on ESPN, or does it list anything? Yeah, that's true. Yes, on ESPN right now it says Iowa's 1.5 point favorite over LSU. So they at least are predicting close. I don't know what was the spread today against Colorado. Had you seen?
I think it was like 6 or 7.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
Yeah, Iowa. Yeah, DraftKings has that at 1.5 too. So.
Yeah, this was one of the few times in the postseason that I would have taken the over on Iowa in that game. The last 2 rounds would be like, oh, I don't know. I think it's going to be a little closer than that, just because Iowa's not a team that really totally, they don't beat teams down by 40, 50 points traditionally. But that's one that I was like, I just felt really comfortable about today's game, and I just don't quite have that same gut feeling for LSU. But boy, I would love to be wrong. It would be a great day, and it would be a great April Fool's Day in Iowa history if they could not only reach another Final Four, but be the ones to knock out Kim Mulkey and LSU and the reigning national champions.
It certainly would, and we'd be having a few days to make some plans for Cleveland, and just going to back-to-back Final Fours would really, I think, cement Caitlin's legacy. Although, I don't really think it needs cementing. I think it's already there. But 2 Final Fours in a row at Iowa, who only has that would be their third, I believe.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty impressive for a college career, because Iowa's it's a good program, but it's not a blue blood. It's not one of those, and it's really hard to break into this sport, especially. There's more parity in it now, but to break into women's college basketball like that, it really leave a mark, I think.
Yeah, furthest thing from blue blood, if you ask me. I mean, even though Lisa Bluter is climbing up, I forget when her contract runs through, but she is going to start climbing up some career coaching wins scoring charts here pretty soon. I mean, next season she'll likely hit 900 career wins. And if she's around for 5 more years, I mean, she could hit 1,000 career wins, which is incredibly rarefied air in the women's college coaching world. Which, by the way, one thing that I didn't even touch on this in my story, but it's worth noting, with the win tonight, Iowa now broke the program record for wins in a season. They initially had set the record last year, so tonight they broke the record for most wins in a single season in team history. So just another mark on, Lisa and Caitlin's resume. In one of the other, stations in Iowa that did a special for Caitlin Clark before the tournament, I heard one person say that they were asked, what does Caitlin have to do in the tournament, kind of to cement her legacy? And that person said, it doesn't matter what she does moving forward. And to an extent, yes, but also I was like, if they get bounced in the second round, I think that at least is a little bit of a stain on her reputation, where people are going to be like, well, she still lost in 2 second rounds in her college career. But the fact that she's been able to get this team back to the Elite Eight 2 straight years and a Sweet 16 as a freshman, I think that only cements her resume as great of a player as she is.
Totally. And then there's some, I love the confidence guys in the chat about LSU not being as good as we're saying they are, and they said they'd lost a lot. They've only lost 5 games this year, twice to South Carolina, who's undefeated, to Colorado. Yes, they lost to Colorado, only beat Colorado, but I still think Colorado's a good team. They've been reeling the past. I think they lost 5 of 6 they lost in the regular season, to end the regular season, I should say. But they lost to Mississippi State, LSU did, and Auburn when kind of their season was. There was that time where Angel Reese wasn't showing up and to practice and whatnot. They kind of went through some turmoil, but they still are a very good basketball team. I don't want anyone to get twisted on that.
And even their losses to, they lost twice to South Carolina, once by 6 points, once by 7 points. I mean, keeping it within 6 or 7 of South Carolina, I mean, not many teams can do that. We just saw Indiana do it, yes, but there are very few teams who can hang with South Carolina quite like LSU did. So even though, yes, this has not been maybe the championship defending season that probably LSU fans were hoping it would be, boy, that is still a really freaking good team.
And don't get me wrong, we're not trying to talk anyone down if you think I was going to win. I think it's a toss up, and I really think the line goes to the betting line really reflects that. I just think in my head maybe it's because I remember watching the blowout last year, but still, and the game this morning against UCLA, it's going to be a tough matchup. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got to say about that.
Yeah, and tip off at 6 o'clock on Monday evening, and we're going to have full coverage the next couple of days on Iowa's News Now. And I don't know, are we going to pod before then, or save the pod until after the Elite Eight game on Monday?
I haven't thought about it yet.
All right.
Do a little, probably after the game.
Yeah, I'm really excited to discuss some storylines, maybe some that fans can watch for on our website and our shows tomorrow night and Twitter and everything. One thing obviously we're going to talk about the championship game rematch, but a few other storylines I want to touch on are, the wins record is good. I'm excited to have a conversation with Kate Martin tomorrow in the locker room because I want to talk, number one, her coaching career, her future coaching career. We spoke about that, I think, on the last podcast, how she talked about potentially coming back to Iowa and doing some coaching. And that was kind of news to everybody hearing that. And so I'm curious to, just ask if there's been any discussions about that. And we also just kind of figured out recently that she went to the same high school as AJ Epinesa. And so I was going to ask her about that, just like what her relationship was like with the Epinesas, or how well she knew any of them. But anyway, so there will be some fun conversations, I think, tomorrow to come out of our locker room coverage.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And when is that? Is that tomorrow morning or?
Somebody told me, I think, like 10:30 tomorrow morning or something.
Duke wants you to ask Kate what the name of her blanket is.
Oh, yeah. Was that part of the story that that they released? Yeah, that she has a blankie or whatever. Anyway, yeah. Well, the next conversation. Kate's always just, she's absolutely my favorite person to talk to. Always just has good sound bites. Knows how to have a good conversation. She's a lot of fun. She's one of my all-time faves. So anyway, we'll land this plane. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for sounding off in the chat. We love seeing some discussion going on here, and love the optimism for Iowa's game on Monday against LSU. We're going to have full coverage on Iowa's News Now. You can follow Eye on the Hawks on X and YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff, and we're going to have lots of content over the next few days from this team as they prepare for that championship game rematch against the LSU Tigers. Thanks for joining us from Mike in Cedar Rapids, from Owen and Albany.